All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be the Ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dova Cohen, and Beschos the Refuah Shlema, Mishalom ben Sarah Rachel, Miriam Bas Sarah, and Sarah Bas Esther Yachet, the Refuah Shlema. Again, Sarah, I'm going to be learning for you special today. Today, we are on page 328 in the Ora Vigdor, for those who are following along. And we're going to be talking about a few different points that Chovos HaLevavos made yesterday. Chovos HaLevavos said yesterday that we have to remove ourselves from the love of this world and replace it with love for Hashem. And then he talked about people, right? We shouldn't be so involved in people. Again, these words are very harsh. They're very extreme. He talks about friendships and how we get involved in social circles. And then Rabbi Victor Miller is going to get into talking about the few people that are able to pull that off, of being involved in the world respectfully and friendly, yet at the same time they were able to remove themselves from being involved, too involved with other people. And then he talks about solitude, precious, go to Hesbodados and doing stuff like that. And we're going to talk about that today as well. So today, when it comes to the love for this world, Rabbi Victor Miller, all these comments today are based on Rabbi Victor Miller. He's actually quite interesting and at some points even comical, as you'll see. Chovos HaLevavos said that a person should remove himself from the love for this world and replace it with love for Hashem. And what does that mean in reality for us over here today? So we touched on this a bit, but he goes into this a little bit more. You should thank Hashem for all the pleasures of this world, right? Because Hashem put it here, and Hashem gave it to us. Whether it's luxury or not, doesn't make a difference. It's something that Hashem gave us. The idea, though, over here is, and this is something that we spoke about yesterday, is that you need to remove yourself from the love for this world as it is your only goal. Meaning that it shouldn't be your goal to amass wealth, and that's it. It should be your goal to work hard, make a lot of money so you can do mitzvos with them, so you can do avodas Hashem with them. That, yes, and that's okay. You shoot for the moon with that. The same thing with everything else. Don't make it you go, I love to travel. Rabbi Victor Miller talks about that very, very harshly. He says people get involved in they just want to travel and tour the world and even write it off it's God's creation. No, but what are you doing this for? Are you doing this just for the sake of traveling and just traveling the world? Don't do too much of that. It's okay to do some of it, again, to recharge our batteries, to get away from the daily grind. Because again, those reasons are for getting closer to Hashem so that we can recharge ourselves, so we can get back to the normal daily grind, so we can get back to doing our avodas Hashem every single day, and which makes this vacation that you go on also part of avodas Hashem. Then he talks about understanding Chovos HaLevavos when he talks about friendships. As Chovos HaLevavos said earlier, yesterday when we spoke about it, but you should seclude yourself from the world and its inhabitants. That was the second part. First part was the love for the world, and the second part was the inhabitants. And what does it mean in light of what we said here? Rabbi Victor Miller says, it doesn't mean that you hate the world. It's certainly you should love his fellow Jew, and you should be respectful to every human being, because everybody is a creation of Hashem. But the idea over here is that you don't have to be involved in every single social circle and everything that goes on. You don't have to go to every single event, every single party. You don't have to go to every single one of those things. He says over here, Chafetz Chaim, the great Chafetz Chaim, he says he didn't have any friends whatsoever. He was a friendly man. He was a hospitable man. He greeted everyone kindly and humbly, but he never was interested in belonging to part of a group of people, calling them his friends. He was never interested in having anyone's company just to schmooze or you talk about, current events or whatever it was. That was never his goal. He was a super, super friendly, nice, big tzaddik. But he never sought out relationship for the sake of just to have a friendship with someone so that you can, kill time, so to speak. Because his job on this world was just to do avodas Hashem, just to get close to Hashem every single day. And Rabbi Victor Miller says there were a few people in this world that actually pulled this off, and it was actually a very, very interesting story from the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, he didn't see his sister for 13 years. And after 13 years, they finally reunited, and he sits down with her, and he asked her a few pleasant questions. How you've been? things of that nature. And after a few minutes and after a few questions, he said, "Okay, bye-bye. I'm going back to my learning, back to my avodas Hashem." Now his sister was a little taken back. She's like, "I didn't see you for 13 years. I want you to understand that the Vilna Gaon's sister was also on a higher madrega. She wasn't just a regular woman. She was a tzaddikus also." But even for her, it was about, I didn't see you for 13 years, and you're just going to say, "Hi, how are you? You good? You both of the kids? Okay, great." And then you go back to your learning. Rabbi Vildi Miller saw her disappointment. He said, "On the next world, in Olam Haba, we'll have enough time to shmooze. Right now, I need to work on getting there." It's a very different level. It's not something that any of us on this share are on. At least I'm not. I don't know if you guys are. If you are, you're probably one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, or Lamed Zayin Tzadikim, as someone likes to joke around. But the idea over there is that your day shouldn't be enamored with trying to be part of a social circle, always being present and doing stuff like that. That's not the idea. And now, the final thing he talks about today is solitude, or the perushis, or the hisbodidos. We might do meditation and stuff like that. But we know that solitude, and we talk about, he says that you should remove yourself from this world. Really, what it entails in the olden times is that you leaving your family, going out into secluded areas like the forest, into the mountains, and you would remove yourself from the daily grind, from your day-to-day obligations as a husband, as a father, maybe as a child that you have to help your parents, whatever that is. You're removing yourself with that so you can dedicate your day fully to Hashem. And some of these people would go out for days or for weeks, or maybe some of them even went on tours of the world for years to kind of preach the Prushas and also to practice Prushas and the solitude. And Rabbi Victor Miller says that that's not something that's really, you're not capable of doing it today's days. In today's modern world, you can't just get up and leave and tell your wife and kids, I see you in a month. It doesn't work like that. I don't think you're coming back to a home at that point. But Rabbi Victor Miller says there's opportunity every single day of your life to take a moment, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's a few minutes, maybe it's an hour, maybe there's an event that you need to go to, or you don't need to go to, your wife is going to, and you don't have to go along, Rabbi Victor Miller says. Just don't go along. Stay home. Take that time to just, think of Hashem. Do those avodas Hashem that you need to do, whether it's learning, whether it's just, being mindful of Hashem. Big part of us bodos, by the way, is remembering, that Hashem gave us the Torah. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Hashem gave us the man and the midbar. All those different things, those are part of hisbodidos that people do, and there's much more in depth over there. Rabbi Victor Miller says in his comedy, because he did live in modern times, he said if you take the train to work every single day. Rabbi Victor Miller lived in Brooklyn, and people, all his mispalim, his talmidim, they also lived in Brooklyn for the most part. And people would work in the city, and they'd go to Manhattan every single day, take the train. He said instead of looking around at the people and at the ads on the train every single day, close your eyes and think of Hashem. And then Rabbi Victor Miller says, make sure to guard your pockets and your wallet because you're still on the train. But at the end of the day, just take your time and just think of Hashem. Rabbi Victor Miller, he was known for being super friendly and comedic at times. But at the end of the day, before we're going to move on tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, to going back into the regular programming of Chovos HaLevavos, he brings these ideas that are very extreme, and that's the way Chovos HaLevavos, Rabbeinu B'chaya wrote them. But at the end of the day, really, you don't have to take the whole thing. You just have to take the concept of it. And the concepts of it and using little bits of it is what you need to practice every single day. And again, it doesn't mean taking, for the next 4 hours from 8 a.m. till 12 p.m., I have to do my meditation. It doesn't work for most people. If it works for you, great, but for most people it doesn't. And don't start making it a trend, because you're going to find yourself in a heap of trouble really, really quickly. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us all here today. Have a beautiful third day of Hanukkah. And as always, I love you all.